Listen to this sad state of affairs. This is a Labour MP, a Labour representative. I went to the elders, please help us. Are we governed under fucking Sharia? Is that what we have to do to stop Muslim men young English girls? Go and plead with the Islamic elders. Listen to what she said. She went to the Islamic elders, they're representatives of their community. And what did they do? Nothing. Did they help? No. How many Islamic protests did you see on the streets across the UK over Islamic rape gangs? Zero. Do you know the only time Muslims protested about this issue? The only time? In Rotherham, when the council said they needed to put cameras in their taxis because their taxis were being used to prostitute and ferret girls. That's the only time they took to the streets and protested, because they wanted to put cameras in their taxis. Then they're all out on the streets. This stain, I just hope that every person, you see Nick Lowles, you see Owen Jones, you see Jess Phillips, Keir Starmer, the entire Labour establishment that attacked every single person. Do you know the people who lost their jobs, lost their livelihoods, lost their reputations, smeared, attacked, violently attacked, imprisoned? So many people, all from start to finish, to cover up the dirty hands of politicians and police leaders who allowed this. They allowed it. They covered it up. And they come down like a ton of bricks on anyone who tried to speak about it. And right now, those same people who acted in that way are trying to rewrite fucking history. They're trying to rewrite history as though they were on the side of... You were on the side of the Labour. You were on the side of the rapists. Yes, I'm angry. And so should every single person in Britain be angry. Because you see all those traitors in Parliament. All of them sitting there in Parliament. They all knew what was happening. You see the entire mainstream media. Every one of the journalists. They all knew what was happening. You see Andrew Norfolk, who won all the awards for exposing this. He knew what was happening. Every one of them knew what was happening. They let it happen. They didn't care. In fact, right now, they'd still be letting it happen. It would still be allowed to happen. If it wasn't for the people who stuck to the streets, if it wasn't for the survivors, if it wasn't for the whistleblowers, do not allow them to rewrite history. Any of them. Don't allow Labour politicians, don't allow the mainstream media, don't allow any of them to rewrite history. Because every one of them had dirty hands. Every single one of them. Scum, the lot of you. And everything will be unveiled. Everything's coming out. Everything. You see, when they do this national inquiry, do we trust them? Do you trust them? I'm going to do my episode anyway. I'm going to show you Labour's involvement. But do you trust them? And you see if the truth comes out on this. Do you know how many of them need to go to jail? Police leaders, council leaders, politicians, all the way to the top. You see that filthy Labour scumbag, Sean Davies, trying to rewrite history. So what are you doing? You can't rewrite history. You've all got dirty hands. It's all coming out. There's going to be nowhere for you to hide. Nowhere.
Let's talk about one of the darkest moral failures in modern British politics, and the party right at the centre, the Labour Party. This isn't just cowardice. It's betrayal. A Labour MP admitted she had to beg community elders, not the police, not social workers, to help stop the ongoing abuse of young British girls. And what did those elders do? Nothing. Where were the protests from that community? Where was the outrage? Nowhere. The only time they hit the streets was when Rotherham Council proposed putting cameras in taxis, not to protect victims but to protect their image. And while this was happening, Labour politicians, journalists and activists went after anyone who dared speak up. Whistleblowers were fired, smeared, even prosecuted, all to protect those in power who let it happen. Now they're trying to rewrite history, pretending they stood with the victims. No, they didn't. They stood with the silence, with political correctness, with the abusers. Every decent person in Britain should be furious, because they all knew, the politicians, the police, the media, and they stayed quiet. Why? To protect their own image, to avoid offending anyone, to keep the lie of multicultural harmony alive. Now they're launching a national inquiry. Do you trust them? I don't. I'll be doing my own expose. And when the truth finally comes out, names will be named, and prison cells should be ready. Remember this, the people trying to rewrite history were the same ones who allowed it to happen. And when justice comes, they'll have nowhere left to hide.
So when Baroness Casey says today it is not racist to want to examine the ethnicity of offenders,
of course not.
You say absolutely right.
Of course not.
Okay.
I didn't think it was in forced marriage. I didn't think in moving forward on forced marriage. I didn't think it was racist in moving forward on female genital mutilation. I didn't think it was racist.
So sorry, when people say you and others in Labour, in the Labour Party, in opposition and in government, have stuck your head in the sand about this.
I mean, that people can. There are undoubtedly people who have. I'm not going to, and Louise Casey finds that, and there is plenty of anecdote, for example, around Anne Cryer, a Labour MP who spoke up about this, being told to keep it quiet by people, from within the Labour Party.
And Maggie Oliver herself, a whistleblower, says Labour and the Tories have both turned a blind eye.
Maggie Oliver is absolutely right. When Sarah Champion came out and spoke about it at the time, I completely and utterly supported her. So look, people have turned a blind eye. There's I'm not denying that.
Including you?
Absolutely not me. I have never turned a blind eye. I never would shy away from calling a problem what it is.
Absolutely not me. I have never turned a blind eye. That's what Jess Phillips, now the Minister for Safeguarding, proudly declared in response to growing outrage that politicians buried their heads in the sand while working-class British girls were being systematically abused across the country. But sorry, Jess, the public isn't buying it. You, of all people who built a political brand on being a champion for women and children, want us to believe you didn't see what was happening for decades in Rotherham, Rochdale, Telford, Oxford, and beyond. If you weren't turning a blind eye, then where were you? Where was your outrage? Where were your speeches, your demands for justice, your confrontation of those in your own Labour Party who helped bury this scandal? Nowhere. That's where Jess Phillips wasn't just silent. She was part of a political machine that crippled the truth in the name of multicultural sensitivity. She wielded political correctness like a weapon to silence anyone who dared to question what was happening, anyone who tried to sound the alarm. While vulnerable British girls were being groomed and discarded, Jess Phillips and her Westminster colleagues were too busy policing speech and attacking whistleblowers like Sarah Champion, one of the few in Labour brave enough to admit her party had blood on its hands. And now, only after the public knows the truth, only after the evidence is overwhelming and survivors have forced the issue into the spotlight, now Jess Phillips comes running, crying, "I never looked away." That's not leadership. That's damage control. That's desperation. That's reputation management in the face of a political reckoning. Jess Phillips cannot play the victim and the bystander at the same time. You stood beside Keir Starmer, the former Director of Public Prosecutions, and you expect us to believe you didn't know. If you didn't know, you were incompetent. If you did, you were incompetent. If you did, you were complicit. The truth is this: Jess Phillips stayed silent when it mattered most. And now she wants history to forgive that silence because she holds a fancy title. But the British people aren't stupid, and they don't forget. Let her words be remembered, not as proof of innocence, but as a monument to political hypocrisy, a reminder that when the victims screamed for help, Jess Phillips looked the other way. Or worse, helped bury the truth under layers of bureaucracy and press statements.